Hi, my name's Cara and I'm a first year student midwife. I am doing a series of videos on how to prepare for your midwifery interviews, and today's video is going to be on what not to say at interview. So I've reflected upon my past experience of last year's interviews and I've created a top 10 list of things not to say at interview. Number 1. Do not say, "I love babies." It may well be true that you do love babies, but you don't tend to go into midwifery to look after babies. You go into midwifery to look after women, and it's really important that at interviews you get that across to the interviewers. If at your interview you talk too much about how much you like babies and looking after babies, the interviewers may get the impression that you'd be better suited to something like neonatal nursing or paediatric nursing. And so that's why it's really important to make sure you express that you're really wanting to care for women and support women and their families throughout pregnancy and labour and the postnatal period. Number 2. Try and avoid calling women patients. Midwifery is a very different healthcare profession to most others in the sense that generally you'll care for well women, and so sometimes calling women patients can be a bit inappropriate almost, and it also gives a less clinical feel when you're talking to women. Number 3, avoid talking about nursing. This is because nursing and midwifery are completely different careers, and so it's really important that the admissions tutors know that you're really serious about becoming a midwife because there are so few places. Number 4, I would try and avoid talking about one born every minute and call the midwife. So it may come up in your interview about televising childbirth or even the history of midwifery, and in those certain situations it may be appropriate to talk about programmes such as One Born Every Minute and Call the Midwife, especially if they're asking about whether you agree with, I don't know, televising childbirth and the effects that has on society. But otherwise, especially if somebody's asking you why you wanted to become a midwife, I would definitely try and avoid it because things like One Born Every Minute and Call the Midwife don't really give a very accurate representation of what the role of a midwife is. Number 5, don't talk over others in group interviews. At some of your interviews you may find you have a group interview where there'll be a selection of you and you will have to either discuss something or do a group task together. And you might find that when you're so nervous and in the moment you might want to just blurt out any old answer, but it's really important to ensure that you're not actually talking over other people. A really good way of doing things, especially if somebody starts talking about something you wanted to say, is wait for that person to finish saying what they're saying and then say, "Such and such made a really good point," and then add your little extra bit that you wanted to add, or if you read a bit of research about that, add that. And also if there's like a specific topic where you could have two different views, it might be a really good idea to talk about something and then ask the others in your group what they think about it, and that's a really good way to show that you're a good communicator and work well as part of a team. But yeah, definitely try and avoid talking over other people, because at the end of the day group interviews are really looking to bring out whether you have the communication skills and team working skills to be a good midwife. Number 6, try and avoid talking about things in an overcomplicated manner or use vocabulary that you're not really confident in using, especially if it's on a subject that you don't feel 100% confident talking about. By all means, I mean, you're not going to know everything about all things midwifery related, and there will be some challenging vocabulary, but try not to overcomplicate your sentences or try and make them more wordy, because ultimately, as long as you can get your point across and clearly, that's all that matters really. Number 7, at some interviews they might ask you what your weaknesses are, and I would try and avoid at this point saying I'm too much of a perfectionist. It's a bit of a cliche one, and also it doesn't really tell the lecturers too much about you. It's really important to be very honest, but also kind of make it in a way that you want to improve upon it and show ways that you can improve on it. So for me, when I was asked what my weaknesses was, is that sometimes I can take criticism to heart, but that is also not always a bad thing, because it's that wanting to do better and then beating myself up about it that makes me want to do better the next time and not make the same mistake again. Number 8, if you're asked to talk about the role of a midwife, try and avoid purely talking about delivering babies, because that is only a tiny part of what midwives do. Try and talk about different aspects of antenatal care, postnatal care, intrapartum care, and also kind of show that you have an understanding that midwifery is holistic and that it doesn't only look at the physiological aspects but also the psychological, emotional and things like that. So it is really quite a broad career, and delivering babies is a tiny part of it. And that brings me swiftly on to number 9. Midwives do not deliver babies. I think within midwifery it used to be quite a common thing to say that a midwife delivered a baby, but now we're trying to change that language because it can be seen as disempowering to women. At the end of the day, it's the women who deliver their babies, and all midwives do is facilitate, assist and kind of support women through labour, really. Another term you could use is catching babies or facilitating birth, things like that, but generally I'd try and avoid saying delivering babies. Number 10, try and avoid colloquialisms. That's a mouthful. Especially if you're planning on moving to a university that's quite far away and you have an interview in a place that's not necessarily familiar to you or is quite a long way from where you live, using colloquialisms may not be the most appropriate thing, because sometimes you might find that your interviewer may not even understand what you're trying to say, and also it just comes across as a little bit less professional. So I'd try and stick to just standard English and avoid kind of avoid colloquialisms and slang. So those are my 10 top things not to say at interview. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't seen my last video, I did a video on what to wear for interviews, and there'll be some more videos in the series. So to keep up to date, don't forget to subscribe to the Gap Medics channel and leave a comment below. I'll see you later. Bye.